everyone, I hope you're all doing so well and having an amazing week, and welcome to this oil painting and chill session of this painting entitled The Curse of the Furry Caterpillar. I do hope you like it. And this week's weekly shout out goes to Miss Art Garden. She is absolutely incredible. I will leave a link to her channel below, so please check her channel out. If you would like to be featured in my weekly channel shout out, please just leave me a comment, subscribe and press the bell. Before I start this oil painting time lapse, I thought I'd just quickly chat about how I created this painting and painting on metal. So this week's painting time lapse was supposed to be a painting on metal because I ordered this sample from Jackson's Art Supplies. I just discovered fairly recently that they create these aluminium panels, and I was so curious because whilst I think it's probably better for really super modern kind of abstracts and things, I just thought it would be such an interesting surface to test out. I was getting all excited about painting on metal and I was going to create this video today, but my order didn't arrive for ages. I was waiting and waiting because obviously of COVID and the holidays as well, so I cannot blame the art shop. But at the same time, it was so frantic to create a painting for today. I can't actually believe that I managed to finish this painting, this one, the one that's wet, because it was literally like a mad rush. And I've already started drawing, but you can see the drawing is so bad on this because what's really, I don't know if you can see, if I tilt this, yeah, you can see there's kind of a rough outline of a cat. What's so weird about this is there's several weird things, and I'll do a proper review and a time lapse of painting on metal either next week or the week after. And so what's so strange about this is so slippery, and it kind of feels like holding like a bathroom tile, you know, like when you're redecorating your bathroom. In fact, I'm actually quite scared I'm going to either drop this on myself or just go like that and then just it'll go flying. The funny thing about this product is I read all the reviews before I bought it, just because, I mean, this hardly costs anything. This is their sample that they send if you want to test it out. Normally it's sold out. So I've considered buying it previously and then just thought, well, actually it's sold out, so I'm not going to buy the bigger panel. But because they had it, I read all the reviews and was kind of convinced by the reviews that these panels weren't heavy, because I'm almost positive many people said they were lightweight, but they're, in my personal opinion, they're not lightweight. It feels like a really heavy piece of metal, which is good because in a way, if you are selling you know, an expensive piece of metal and as an expensive painting, then it feels like a luxury weighted item. The only thing is though, just for me personally, if I was to get like a big panel and paint on it and then frame it, then that would be like another extra weight, the frame. I think the whole piece would be pretty heavy, and I'm not entirely sure whether that would be my personal thing. Just because to send to galleries when there are exhibitions, if the painting is so heavy, I'm not entirely sure how I would get it there. Like, I do often get people to help me when I always get people to help me when I'm transporting my paintings, but I just feel like I would like to be able to move my paintings around without having to get people to move them for me, if that makes sense. I'm always moving my paintings around, so I don't know whether it's really, and I'm talking like a really big piece would be too heavy to move for me, too heavy to carry for a long way, like, you know. But it's just a consideration about the future. I was really just thinking about it in practical terms in the far distant future. But I'm really interested to try it out. And actually my pencil doesn't stick to the surface at all. It was so slipping, completely slipping around and all over the place. And as you can see, there's no, oh, it's upside down. There's no cohesive drawing. It's just a big mess. Just some sort of faint, pathetic outline. So I'm so intrigued. Thoughts are, it feels and looks like a super luxurious item, and if I was more of an abstract painter, I think I would be running out to get these, and I think it's still a possibility for me to test out in the future and to purchase in the future, because I think the effect from what I've seen of other people creating paintings on this panel, the effect is probably going to be really good. So I'm intrigued, I'm so intrigued, and I'll let you all know, obviously, in a week or two. Just as an extra thing, I know a lot of artists use metal to paint on, because it's particularly aluminium, because it's meant to be more long lasting than any other surface, because it doesn't sort of disintegrate and it doesn't off gas. I think that's what it is, doesn't off gas. And there are some old masters that have painted on metal panels and they've lasted till now really well. I think many of them painted on copper though, not aluminium, but I've heard it's very archival. In terms of creating this caterpillar painting, I drew this for Mab's Drawing Club. And this is just a drawing that I really liked. I think it's probably because it was one that I really just delved into my imagination. I didn't use a ton of copyright-free references to construct a caterpillar. I really just went for it. And I often find that my personal art looks a lot better when I don't use a ton of references and I just stick to what's in my head. And I really did that with this painting because I just came up with whatever I could think of, and particularly when it came to the colour palette as well. And I just thought I'd talk a bit about transferring or drawing onto a panel. I know a lot of artists use, I think some artists use a projector, which is so kind of high tech and brilliant. I mean, I don't, because I'm just too impatient, and I just those types of things to be really super technical that way, it never appeals to me, because I'm so, I suppose, ad-lib, like I kind of just like to be spontaneous with things. And so if there's some really big, arduous, preliminary process, we got there, process to create a painting, I would just give up. So I tend to try and start my paintings as fast as possible. So basically what I did was I just did a really super rough sketch onto the panel and then started painting from there. And I just had this open on my Instagram and I just copied it. But one thing just to make a note of is if you're drawing on panel or linen, using a rubber is really difficult. And so you may want to trace if you don't want to run into that problem, because I have drawn something on another panel and I was trying to rub out and the pencil was just smudging everywhere. And it just is a thing, unfortunately, that those types of surfaces, like gesso surfaces, linen surfaces, they're not really made for erasers. So I just thought I'd mention that because it might be helpful and useful in case you've run up into that problem. What I'm going to do is I've made a bit of a mess of another panel with the drawing. So instead of rubbing it all out and like smudging it everywhere in the black lead going everywhere, black pencil going everywhere, I will just go really thickly over the drawing with another drawing and just allow my thoughts to focus on the new drawing. Does that make sense? I really hope you enjoyed this little chat. It wasn't really very informative because I don't have an aluminium painting and I didn't trace or use a projector to transfer my drawing, but these are options that you can take on board. And if you've been interested in checking out the aluminium panels from Jackson's Art Supplies, then please come back in a week, possibly 2 weeks, and I will give a review of what I've thought. But so far it's looking so interesting. And I just want to add, I apologise that this jumper I'm wearing is hideous. I just realised, because when I started this video I didn't think it was hideous, and I'm looking at it on the screen of my camera and I've just realised that it is awful. And actually I remember when I was training in acting, that they always told you to not wear stripes on camera because it really confuses people. So I really hope that I haven't confused anyone, but you never know. So if I have, then you have my most humble apologies, and I will see you next week. Please follow me on Instagram, because why wouldn't you? And I will follow you back. and I will see you soon. Oh, and join me in the speed paint that is coming now. The story behind this painting was really funny because it was all about this opera singer who was wandering along in the woods and actually gets turned into a caterpillar by an evil goblin. And I just loved the kind of fantastical story behind it that I just sort of came up with. And it was so funny because when I was thinking about recreating this piece in painting form, I realised that I've actually never been to the opera. I've been to lots of light operas before, and they've always been really, really good. But the thing with light opera is it's very similar to musical theatre, but you do get some more sort of operatic voices. But I've never actually been to the Royal Opera House and seen a full-on, fully blown opera. And I've in fact tried to book it on several occasions, but it's just never come into fruition, for whatever reason, scheduling and people not being free, or some people dropping out, because opera is still considered pretty highbrow, I would say. And funnily enough, the art that I create is in the lowbrow movement, so I always just find the contrast to be so funny. I don't personally think that my art is necessarily lowbrow because it takes so much effort to create, but it is considered lowbrow in the sort of lowbrow pop surrealist movement. So, interestingly, I'd say that lowbrow art is considered popular. It's really popular, especially on the internet. And highbrow art, so you could consider opera as being highbrow art, I'd say, highbrow creativity, is not necessarily that popular. I mean, it depends. Amongst certain people, it is the most popular thing ever. And whenever I mention I really want to go to an opera, just because I really want to see what it's like, and my mum is really into the whole idea of going to the opera, whenever she mentions it, many people groan or try and run away or fake liking it and then say, actually, I really don't like it or really don't want to go. And I find that ballet has the same reaction. But I personally tend to appreciate all forms of art. So for me, opera, ballet, it's all wonderful. But it's funny how, and it's so interesting how each different type of art and creativity can create different reactions in people. Like I find modern art to be incredibly controversial that way. You would get people who absolutely detest it, and there are other people who cannot stand old art, like sort of old masters, and will only go to the modern art museums in London, and they will never attempt the National Gallery or the Tate or anything like that, and only the Tate Modern they will go to. So it's so interesting how people have different thoughts and reactions to things. And I suppose when it comes to art, when people like or dislike your art, it could be just because it's not their personal taste, and everyone's personal tastes vary, of course. And I also considered, when I was creating this piece, what would be the worst insect or animal to be turned into if you were turned into one by a goblin. And I thought, just before recording this, that a daddy longlegs would probably be the worst insect to be turned into, because daddy longlegs is, I think, only live one day, and they have really spindly legs. Even if they just sit up on a counter, their legs just seem to fall off just randomly. So that would definitely be, in my opinion, the worst thing to be turned into. So I do hope you like this painting, and I really enjoyed creating it, even though it was a total mad rush. And I will see you next week with more art and more paintings. Take care, guys.